Hello friends, this is Scott at the Project Garden again. As you hear a lot of noisy traffic today, even though it's a Sunday here at the Project Garden. I stopped in to drop off and plant some spring vegetables that I picked up at the nursery yesterday. The nursery still does not have everything in stock. I couldn't find any broccoli, but I did find some of the crops that I want to put in, and so we're going to do a little bit of that work today. Just wanted to give you kind of a heads up on what it is that you can plant in the spring versus some things in the summer. I see a lot of people at the nurseries buying tomatoes and peppers and different herbs like basil in April. And those are plants that, unless you have a place to put them indoors and let them wait it out, it's too early to plant those. So what we're going to plant today is, I've got some Swiss chard, which is a great all-season vegetable, very slow to bolt, so you can get good greens the whole year. Got some Brussels sprouts. My wife's not a big fan of Brussels sprouts, but we've been eating at some restaurants that have had some appetizers that are pretty tasty, so we're going to learn how to cook these better. We've got some red Russian kale. Kale's obviously good in smoothies, and it's great in salads and also in stir fries. I've got some leeks, and these you plant, you have to separate each individual plant and plant them separately. So there's a lot of leeks here in a 4-pack. Then I've got some cauliflower. This is cauliflower. We do have cabbage here in a second. And then the cabbage is over here. Let me grab one. We have a late flat Dutch cabbage. So that's what we're going to grow today. Again, I couldn't find any broccoli, or I'd be putting that in. But there's certain things that you can grow in the spring, and there's other things you need to wait. So I'm going to do a full video on those types of crops. And there's some crops you can grow in the spring and in the fall, and some you overwinter. So there's lots of things to know. And it's just, if you want to have good gardening success, so you keep it up, you want to make sure that you're at least planting the right varieties at the right time of the year. And we'll work through that on various videos throughout the year. First step is simply placing the plants on the garden beds where you expect to plant them, and just getting the right spacing down so that it makes it really easy just to dig holes and plant the plants. These plants are so technical. You need one of these, and then you have your little plant, you pop it out of the container. You see it's root bound. Okay, you see there's lots of roots. So what you want to do is you want to rough these roots up, just break them up so that they can grow in different directions. Nothing fancy, just break them up a little bit. And then you just dig your hole and you plant it right to the same depth as it was in the pot. And then you water it in good. That's as hard as this whole planting process is when you buy in plants. But you got to break the roots up so they're not root bound. And sometimes you can tear them, you're not really going to hurt them that much. You just want them to be able to spread the roots out and get a good healthy start. Okay, to recap, we are planting into a very loose soil mix that we did earlier in the season. We started off by digging the beds, just turning the soil over, loosening it up, adding compost from the nursery as well as grass compost that we had sitting behind the fence for a couple of years. Then we brought in some horse manure and we layered that on top, and then we layered on top of that another layer of compost, not mixing it in. The horse manure is about a year old, but I still want it to kind of leach in and break down. So I'm not going to mix all the materials together other than where I planted the hole. Fertility-wise, we also added some bone meal and blood meal, and I'm going to hold off doing anything else just to see how the plants get started fertility-wise. But when you have such a loose, good, nicely prepared bed, you can just put the plants in. It's always a good idea, if you don't know your plants, to leave the plant markers with the plants so you can tell what they are. But I know the plants by their, just by their growth and their visual differences, so I don't need to leave the plant markers. But when you're new to this, it's always a good idea to do that. Get rid of any unhealthy, potentially diseased parts of the plant. Get rid of that. You don't want that with your plant. Here I'm going to plant the Swiss chard. And Swiss chard gets to be a rather large plant, a lot of leaves. You just basically, to harvest, you just snap them off. You do not pull the plant up, and they'll just grow new leaves. You don't cut them with scissors like you do other types of greens. You just snap the big leaves off and use them as you need them. They're great in soups, stir fries, salads. They're really an all-purpose vegetable, and they do not bolt like you'll have with some other things, or they're slow to bolt anyway. And I am planting them good distance apart in case I want to pick up some more containers. I can put some more plants in here. I just kind of want to establish the amount of space that I'll be planting greens, so I'm just going to spread them out right now just so that I know the spot that I'm going to use them, so I can kind of plan ahead for what else I want to plant. Now the next I'm planting is Russian kale, and those come in single plants generally. There's once in a while they sow a couple seeds, you'll get an extra, but I don't separate them out again. I just rip the bottoms off, the roots, rough them up a little, and then I just plant them at the same depth as they came in the container in the soil. And very simple, very quick. Takes a lot more time to talk about it than it does to do it. Now this is the compost that I just spread out the last time I was at the garden that I did not rake out. So again, it's the same as every other bed. It was dug, compost was added, manure was added, more compost on top, and then I'm just raking it in. I'm just smoothing it out. I'm not trying to mix the materials into the soil. I just want to make a level planting area for the leeks. I wasn't planning on planting leeks, but I saw them at the nursery yesterday, so I thought, I got a little room for them, so I'll put them in this spot right here. Now these are leeks. They come in these little cellophane 4-packs. There's many plant seeds sewn together. They look like little blades of grass. You need to pull them all apart and separate each plant out individually so that you can plant them all separately. You want them spaced out because the leeks get to be good size, so you want to have them a good 6 to 8 inches apart. So here I'm just laying out the leeks on top of the soil, approximately where I'm going to plant them. I've got to separate all the plants from the cellophane packages. They're all root bound, intertwined. Just have to pull them apart. Again, they're very similar to blades of grass. That's what it kind of reminds me of. Just laying them out on top and getting ready just to plant them. I expected there to be more leeks than there were in these packs. I thought there was going to be a bunch more, or I would have bought a couple. I was going to take some of these home and plant them at my garden, but I decided that I'd just plant them all here for now, and I'll pick up some more later. Got a few extras I'm just going to stick down the middle of the bed, but planting's as simple as just digging a little hole, stand them up, and just kind of push them into the soil. They'll take off. It just takes a little time. It's critical with these that we get the watering deep enough that they get those roots established so that they can get a good healthy start. But it's amazing how a big leek can come from such a small little blade of grass looking thing. After I'm done planting, I'm going to water everything in good with the hose. We do have a sprinkler system in this garden, but I think he's got it set for the first 4 days of the week, and then it didn't water the last 3. So it was a little dry. It wasn't bad though. So I'm going to have him adjust the sprinklers a little bit just so we get a little more even watering. But I wanted everything watered every day to start with, just to get the seeds germinated, and some of the seeds haven't come up yet, but we're getting a good start on most of them anyway. So just getting a good water in, and I'll water the whole garden by hand today. Now for a quick garden update. We got nothing going on in the potato beds up to this point, but we have some neat activity going on in the next bed. If we get down low, you'll see lots of radishes coming up. The whole row is looking good. But I'm excited about right here. If you can see, it's hard to see, but you see the little red stems coming up. Those are beets. I'm kind of walking in my own shadow here. I don't know if you can see them or not, but here's one that looks a little better. You can get a better look here. There's some beets. And then these are some turnips. You can see them starting to come up. And then again, the radish row is looking solid. All the way down. And then here we have the plants we just planted. The Swiss chard, the red Russian kale, and then we have our Brussels sprouts and our cauliflower and cabbage. And let's look at the progress of our onions. The onions are doing okay. These are the Walla Wallas that are the ones that are the plants you can see sticking up the tallest. And then all these coming up are our yellow storage onions and our red onions. The red onions on the outside, on the left side. And then where we planted our leeks, those will come up nice and strong there. And then we have our strawberries, which I need to get some more strawberries to fill this bed in, but I got to weed it. I still have some little bit more weeding to do. As we scan back around, our next project is going to be this area, where I'm going to bring in some more compost in the very near future, maybe tomorrow. And we're going to fill this all up and get it ready for summer vegetables, which I'm planning on putting, just a little bit of corn, cucumbers, and different types of zucchini and squash. This property has a lot of potential for the future growth, and we can add some more beds. And if you look over here, what we're going to plan to do is we're going to tear this out, or we're going to put in some raised beds here by the greenhouse and get some more growing space here. Now we still have the whole other yard on the other side of the fence. That's a huge space that we probably won't tackle this year, but we have the potential, as long as everything's working out good, to have a good garden in the future over there. Now I do need to mention something from last video, that I indicated that I cut down a tree because my buddy had upset me with some of his text. It was kind of a late April Fool's joke. The pictures of the tree that I had cut was from a previous job I did for a real estate client several years ago that wanted a full tree removed. So he fell for it a little bit. His girlfriend fell for it, but I told him pretty quickly that I didn't chop down another tree. The apple tree that I did prune, I'm hoping to save. The tree was just producing very small little apples, and it was becoming just suckers everywhere, and we either needed to prune it out and try to get it back on track, or we need to take it out and start over with something else. So April Fools. Shaping up pretty nicely. If you like these videos and you want to continue to share my journey living my best rural life in the city, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.